You are listening to part 2 of a 2-part series. If you have not listened to part 1, you have to go back and listen to it or come back with approval from the department chair to get exemption from part 1. If you have listened to part 1, then welcome to class. I am Professor Salisbury, and I'm a real tough grader, so I hope you're ready for pop quizzes and shit.
I've been talking to a number of very liberal coworkers, and I had a conversation with one, and she's like, "Yeah, protests aren't like when I was a kid, you know? They were safe and stuff." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, Jessica, that's because you got a sign and went to your designated area and waved it around, and now we're getting shot at with tear gas. Like, that's..."
How old are your coworkers?
Oh, I mean, she's got to be in her probably like mid 40s, I want to say.
Oh, so like during the 80s?
Yeah, right. So like not too far removed.
I don't know. Look, a lot of people get the shit kicked out of them by the WTO. I think she's wrong.
I think it's like
wrong.
she's probably thinking
Liberals
about
don't know what that is.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is it's not the time period shifting, it's the kind of protest that she's going to is what I'm driving at. Like, and it's
the
White
perfect
picket
liberal
fence.
protest.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if she was like 60, then she would have seen like the Kent State protests where people got fucking shot by the National Guard.
Right.
And
Where she was the one pulling the
okay, you're
trigger.
stupid.
You know.
Did she not go to the women's march? Pretty peaceful. A lot of
oh, I have no clue. Yeah, I mean, I don't like
A lot of people-
this was a 5-minute conversation, not like a deep rap sheet about her protest list, but
No. Yeah. I mean, I don't. But it's also the West is a little wild up there compared to stuff's sort of.
yeah, I mean,
Depending on
I'm
what it
like,
is.
I'm living in the,
You know what I mean?
the fucking battleground right now, I guess. So.
Yeah.
you
There's something happening up there that
It's more. It's much more Portland though. Like I did medical aid for Trans Pride this year, and we showed up with the very slightest amount of resistance, and they took one look at it and were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go beat up people in Portland." So
right.
yeah,
It's someone in 16 or 17 when Trump got elected. There was someone got shot up in Seattle.
yeah, UW campus, yeah.
But I think it was a fellow worker also. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely more centralized towards like Portland, but the Pacific Northwest is just like rife with fash. So
Oh yeah.
like it's everything.
Well, I mean, they're literally like white supremacist states, and the thing that people don't realize about the West Coast is for all of our like lip service liberalism and shit, like we're easily some of the most segregated places, you know.
Yeah, it was
Like, I live
illegal for a
in-
black
in-
person to live in Oregon until like 1920.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I don't know what the date was, but yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is like, I grew up in a town that was literally built on internment too. Like that was all happening primarily out here. Yeah.
Was that the Japanese internment?
Yeah, Japanese internment. Yeah, Bellevue
Okay.
is the town I grew up in. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with my internet here for a second.
It
But
happens.
yeah,
Don't worry, only I have the secure internet connection that reaches everyone's ears.
yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Built on the internment. For some reason it explains.
Oh yeah,
why-
no, it used
These
to be
two
a
people-
strawberry farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the thing though, is it just gets glossed over entirely, and now it's like, I mean, I guess it's really ritzy now, but back when I was a kid, it was a little more like, oh, we're the folksy suburb of Seattle or whatever. Like,
I mean,
Yeah,
even in terms
yeah.
of national history, like a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this thing that's happening with the camps, it's never happened before. It's like brand new. Like this is
Yeah.
not what we're like. Like,
been
what
happening
are you talking about, man?"
You had people who actually lived through the internment protesting at Fort Sill as they were bringing migrants into like the actual military post. Now that they're trying to move into the next stage of making themselves unaccountable to anyone as they carry this shit out. I mean, it's wild to think of all the things that are going on, and it's sad to see like what state it's reaching. And it's weird to think how many people are just like comfortable with that, because I can't imagine like even at a military post like everyone is just like super comfortable with that shit happening. Although like I don't know, like the closer you get to like the heart of the beast, even there I know there would be people who fucking just like aren't about that shit. I mean, you have like leftist veterans like now.
Hello.
On the other side.
There's a couple of people on the base, but they're probably
one's
raise your
using
voice about anything. It's scary, and then the way that they make the military like ranking and everything, kind of shuts you down.
Oh yeah.
So it's
very
really,
familiar with that.
Yeah,
like all. Oh, go ahead.
There's just a lot of like suppression of like your voice and stuff in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, even if there was, I mean, if you look at the military as a whole, I mean, it's gotten to the point where I don't even think the state doesn't necessarily have to do the most violent things to the military. I mean, back in the 1920s, not exactly the 1910s. So in the 1920s, I think you had the marching of the bonus army on Washington, D.C., where they literally repelled World War I veterans with oh fuck, I forget who was there. I don't know if it was Patton, who actually repelled them with the actual still employed army, to get those people out. And now you don't even have to do that anymore because, I mean, it seems like the greatest act of dissent people are doing now is just driving up to the parking lot of the VA and just shooting themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, the state doesn't have to do it. Like the guys will just do it for you. They're just fucking.
Yeah, it's 3 veterans. 3 minutes thing. Suicide.
Yeah.
It's like pretty bad. Another thing, I had a conversation today that this is close to me because I'm down in Louisiana. In Mississippi, they raided like some chicken factories. Took like that were.
Oh, they raided the factories where they made Democrats?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Got him.
Me and some comrades were talking about it, and basically those jobs, like there's like, man, it's just really weird to those are jobs that quote Americans or what white people or whatever, they don't want those jobs. The chicken factories are fucking disgusting. It's horrible. It's one of the most dangerous jobs you can have too.
Probably like standing in chicken shit all day and just like massacring fucking animals 24/7,
Right.
Well, it's psychologically trying. Like a lot of meat producers and stuff wind up with perpetrator-induced stress syndrome or whatever. It's like the opposite of PTSD, where you're the one who does it.
Yeah,
they'll get their hands.
Yeah,
they'll get their hands caught in the machines and
get
injured. But since they're quote illegal, you don't have to claim them. That's not an insurance claim. If you send them to the hospital or whatever, as the boss or the employer, they don't necessarily have to do that because they're quote non-human to them, which is basically like slavery, except for they're like kind of paying them, but it's still slavery. So we were talking, and I was kind of like, well, this is a crazy fucking idea that these capitalists have. What are they thinking? They're like, well, they're just going to have the prison population start doing that instead. And I was like, that's even more capitalist because you don't have to pay them. At least
prisoners already produce like quail eggs and shit for like Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's a transition. I think that they're trying to, because it's like the cheapest labor that you have in America are these migrant workers that cross the border illegally, and you can just give them the lowest fucking wage you can have. They have some down here in Louisiana in the shrimping industry where they'll peel the shrimp, for the packaging and everything, and they have them in a camp, and they have a camp store, and they're not really allowed to leave the camp. And trying to kind of organizing around them, but it's really difficult. But it's that factory store, but it's the real ones from the 1910s.
Get him to read Connie Kosen.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just really strange, but without that work, without those workers, 'cause that's what they are. They're workers. They're fellow workers. like, what are you going to replace them with? Because no one's going to want to do that job unless they're like really desperate or incarcerated. And that's like the catch right there. That's like the answer to the question, and it just I've been depressed all day.
One of the refrains
Thanks,
in
friends.
I just finished Connie Kosen last night, and one of the refrains in it, and we'll talk about it on like I think on its own episode or something like that. But one of the refrains in that was the workers kept saying like, "We're more dead than alive, so we may as well just like, fucking murder the boss."
Right.
Like we're gonna be killed very soon if we don't do something. So let's do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fatalistic move for justice as opposed
Yeah.
to like a creative. Like it can be creative, and it's kind of, just because it's doing something.
I mean, they weren't exaggerating in the book because they were in Kamchatka, which is like
Oh yeah.
the northwesternmost part of Russia. So they were like illegally fishing in Russian waters in like freezing water in storms, and they were like being worked like 14 hours a day. And
It sounds like my job.
yeah, it was crazy. They were getting this what's it called? Malnutrition disease called Betty. And yeah, it just kills you.
That's
crazy.
horrible.
It's a hellish book, but it's very good.
Well, I think we're all depressed
Anyway.
now, Ryan. Yeah.
Thanks,
Want to talk about
I had
Kratom?
to disconnect in the middle of that. What did I miss?
You missed a depressing story about malnutrition while fishing in Russian waters. Basically.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Crab Cannery Ship book
Oh,
that I read
great.
by Taki G. Yeah, the more I talk about it, the more depressing it gets. So we'll move on to something else. So we can keep talking about guns, which I have a feeling is going to be continue to be depressing. Or I have some stuff about like kratom, or about how restaurant meals are statist.
Yeah, so I mean, they're literally just like the artifacts of kinghood, because kings had chefs, and so then when we deposed kings, the chefs survived, and we're like, oh well, let's make the restaurant.
Yeah, they're definitely classist. I'm just like, I guess it. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, even in the kitchen, they have like their own little mini hierarchy.
And you get to scream at people if you're the head chef.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And it's like
Gordon Ramsay's entertaining, but also like he sucks as like the type of person that he actually is in reality.
Yeah, oh,
as
yeah.
a human being, he's horrible. Yeah.
I wish Anthony Bourdain were still alive.
Oh god.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay's the kind of boss that you just need a punch.
Yep.
Yeah, we should all just organize against Gordon Ramsay, I think.
Yeah.
I never really even thought about a restaurant like that. Now I'm not going to go. Not going.
Have you ever seen his daughter on any of his shows? She's like the
No.
most like prissy fucking like posh English person you'll ever see on TV.
I can imagine that.
She's like,
Yeah.
Daddy.
God. Yeah, I wonder.
Is McDonald's status? Yes, it is.
Well, McDonald's.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like.
But also,
McDonald's is probably the
everyone that
most
works at
status.
McDonald's is a hero.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have like two different things there, just because like you're looking at like the workers, which we're about, but then you're looking at the organization itself, which is obviously that has to be destroyed or captured by the workers. That whole
You know what's funny?
thing.
McDonald's is actually like the closest thing to feudalism that there is today, because it's all franchise. So like every franchise owner is like a baron, or like, like a duke or something, depending on how many locations they own. And they're basically their money comes from like owning key real estate. So it's like the same exact shit.
totally.
It's like being a feudal baron.
Yeah, that would make sense sort of as to why like so many fucking ANCAPs are like fascinated by monarchy, Have you ever noticed that like weird
True.
trend among them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They all work at McDonald's.
pretty much.
No, now that I think about it, McDonald's has like sort of perfected feudalism because, like, feudalism, you give the land out to the serfs, and they make food for themselves, which they can share, like, I guess, amongst their family or community, maybe trade on a market. But there's no pretense for that bullshit. It's like you make the food. That food isn't yours, even though you made it.
Mhm.
And like, goodbye, my burgers. You're not paying the tax to your baron of 2/10 of your burger. Like, they get all the fucking burgers, and in payment instead you get maybe what, $7.25 an hour, depending on whether your state has raised its own minimum wage from the federal minimum wage.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So
Plus, most of the peasants eat because of gleaning.
yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean,
and basically you have to head to the. Well, no, because I don't know. It depends on the place. Maybe you get one meal per your shift.
You get the food that's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I've worked at not McDonald's. I've worked at Wendy's. I've worked at a Chicken Shack. You get one meal typically per 6 to 8 hour shift. So
So what's the answer to mealtime that isn't statist? I think the buffet is pretty close.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, in like Indonesia, and like you see this in fucking historical movies about Japan or other kinds of kind of like pre-industrial, I guess, milieus, cultures, whatever. You got these kind of roadside stands, roadside food carts, and stuff like that, and like those are usually kind of run by like one or two people who, split the revenue or whatever it is from their efforts, and so like I think actually a few of us in the Discord, in this other Discord, we're talking about like syndicalized food trucks as potentially like a response to the kind of classist statist restaurant shit. If that makes any sense, the kind of just everyone owns the food business as partners, and so forth. If that makes any sense.
So when I lived in Sicily, they have a restaurant there, and I can't really remember the name of it. I think it has something to do with like family or whatever. But it's basically
La
like
Familia.
it's basically like a person's house, and you go in there and there's a long table. They only seat so many. You pay like a couple of euro to eat, and like old Italian woman comes down and just starts putting food on the table. You don't like pick what you get to, like what you're gonna eat. Like they just cook the meal, and it's just like a big smorgasbord like on a table. I would constitute that as like that would be like a non-status restaurant.
That's great, and also like maybe the biggest hurdle, because like I feel like people are really into being able to choose what food they get. I think if you're the one that's making the food, you should have the most say in like what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That reminded me though, I totally forgot about this, but I went to Austria when I was 15 because we did like a exchange student thing. So we like hosted some Austrian students that came to live with us for a couple months, and then I went there to stay with one of them for I think it was 11 days, and they took me to this thing. I can never remember the name, but I think it's called a Besenschank, and it's basically like a little farm that has like they grow like some crops and some animals, and it's like this little like cafeteria like room. It's like got like picnic style tables and shit, and they bring you out like fresh food that they grew on the farm, and you don't I mean, I don't know if we picked what we got. I don't think we did because they just gave us like a smorgasbord type of thing, and it's all like fucking like fresh food from a farm. It was really delicious. It's like the best thing that we did during the trip, I think.
Literal farm to table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it really is.
Wait, there
What
was
about
a.
some? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Mine wasn't the
Oh, okay.
same, but it was similar. It was like they called it the golf course, but it was like a driving range, really. But it had a restaurant, and it had like the best escargot I ever had. And I didn't realize it, but then when I walked outside, I noticed like all around the house that was kind of built there, that was like the restaurant and the golf club and everything. There's snails all over the place, and they're like, yeah, they grow their own snails. I was like, that's probably why they're so good. But wow, that's crazy. I never even like I don't know. It was pretty interesting. So I think they were doing like a similar thing to that, Ryan. But I didn't speak the Italian that I could speak later on at that point in time, so I couldn't ask any questions. I was just a dumb American on holiday.
What were we gonna say, Sloan?
Oh, so I mean, what about some sort of like a hot pot kind of a thing where the communal like shared thing isn't
true.
the food, but like the tools to make the food?
Yeah. Yeah, and then you just like people just have to do food prep. They don't have to do like a full like cooking a whole meal.
Yeah, right. So you cut up your vegetables or whatever ahead of time, and then you head to your communal eating place, and then you sit down with everybody, and you find somebody who doesn't have any like allergen crossover issues with whatever you brought, and you sit down and eat with them.
Yeah. Yeah, because the other thing about being like working in a kitchen at a restaurant is like it's kind of a high stress situation. At least when you're making like restaurant meals. I guess we'll just differentiate between like a buffet and a hot pot and a restaurant. And a restaurant is like the thing that we're saying is status. So like yeah, if you work in like a restaurant, you have to make every meal like as it's ordered. So you have to like work really fast, and you're working like while people are eating. Whereas like if you're in like a buffet, then you just like replace the meals as they're eaten. And then if you're in a hot pot place, you just like prep food like in advance, and you don't really have to do anything except for I guess like put the soup in the pot and warm it up. Which people can do themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I work in catering now, and literally, like, I stand around all day until it's time to replace something, and then we replace it and go back to standing around.
Yeah, that
It's
rules.
like very straightforward, and there aren't orders being barked or anything. You know, you just kind of sit down and do your job, and everybody's got their little part, and then you go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's like I mean there's the like art aspect of like restaurant cooking, where like especially on like cooking shows, you know, they're like all about like the presentation of everything, and like, you know, pairing everything on the plate together and making sure it all is like coordinated or whatever. And you know, the ones that look extra like visually spectacular are considered like the best meals. And if you're doing that in like a buffet type setting, it's like the art is like the spread, and it's for everyone instead of just the person that ordered it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe like we're approaching this from the wrong angle then, and it's not so much that we even need to be finding an alternative to restaurants or anything, but what we need to be doing is like doing something antithetical, like maybe a dinner party as the antithesis to a restaurant, because it's not orders, you're just inviting somebody to your home to like take part in the art that you're making.
Yeah.
The idea that I've had for the longest time is just like a community kitchen where it's like a local place near where a bunch of people live, and you basically like the reason I thought of it was because I was working at a bakery, and the sous chef was complaining that she never cooks at home because all of her equipment sucks ass compared to the stuff they have in the restaurant. So it's
Right.
like really sucks cooking at home for herself. So like I was like, well, what if there was a place that you could go that just had like the same types of equipment they have in a restaurant, but like you can just use it yourself?
Essentially a kitchen library.
Yeah, exactly. Kitchen
Yeah.
library.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Much
really,
of
we should be
capitalism.
doing.
I'm sorry, a library. What do they call that? A library can solve much of capitalism's problems. You can just go to like library science on everything. Yeah, like your gardening and everything. You have like a tool library for your neighborhood, where it's like community tools. You need to like mow your lawn or whatever. Hopefully, those don't exist at this point in time. You would just go there and the lawnmower would be there or whatever. You know, you need to till your garden. A tiller would be there. You can just check it out, come back. Same works for the restaurant. I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't have any other examples of that, but there you go.
No, I mean, I think any sort of tool use should be done that way. Like, I mean, from a fucking hammer and nails to like, you know, high intensity scientific equipment or whatever. Like, it should all just be publicly owned like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want
Also from-
access to the Large Hadron Collider. Okay, I need it.
Really, though, like, why not? Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
From an ecological standpoint, also that's better because now you don't have like a Home Depot or like a spatula store that's just full of like all of these items that no one necessarily needs to buy, but they're still like producing them. Or like what we do now, you just produce them and you're like, well, shit, we don't know what else we can do. Make it Wi-Fi compatible. Oh yeah, you know, and it's the same thing with junk you don't need, but like you need it, so because everyone else has it or whatever. It's the latest greatest thing. Capitalism.
Right. If with our current system, we're incentivized to build tools that break so that they can be replaced. But if we have everything as a tool library, we're incentivized to build tools that last for a long time because then everybody can use them.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything less fucking bourgeois than building tools intentionally so that they will break? Like, fuck those people. Throw them all into Darvaza gas crater, to quote a friend of mine.
Speaking of which, a little news item about that.
Yes.
So, the president of Turkmenistan, apparently there was a rumor that he was dead that lasted for about 2 weeks, like he just wasn't in the public eye. And
was gathering around getting hopeful.
Apparently, Turkmenistan, very few people have access to the internet, and it's highly censored, and the country is generally like very secretive and authoritarian. I mean, like, nobody really knows shit about it, so I mean, I'm not totally surprised. But so the president decided to quash the rumors that he was dead by getting in an ATV and doing donuts around Darvaza gas crater.
Oh, I thought it was a car.
Oh, I mean,
it was like a lorry or something, I think, right?
Yeah.
Whatever cars
Some
they
kind of
have in
vehicle.
Turkmenistan, yeah. Some sort of 50s vehicle.
Right.
They probably drive those things everywhere.
Yeah, right.
All it would have taken, though, is one person just, driving into him, and he would have gone into the pit.
And then he would have actually been what everyone, quote-unquote, feared. Yeah.
Parody.
Yeah.
Dang, those libel laws reaching all the way from Turkmenistan.
Right.
Good point. Okay.
Angry Turkmen's coming to get us.
I can't imagine what it must like. I think it's just like sort of off the chain. How much news has changed with the access to the internet, but I can't imagine what it'd be like going back to like non-internet times. Although,
yeah, like if the internet existed, but you just couldn't go on it.
I don't know. I feel like we're almost to that point now where it's like so much of my internet usage revolves around so few sites, and even like those sites change their rules so that like the original like usages of it are like changing. I guess at this point, like there's so much like I've gotten out of like Reddit and Twitter, but even those are gonna like start cracking down on like their own things, like because I know like Reddit is now starting to go over its more extremes like left and right and bringing those in, which I mean it took them long enough to go after the right, but then it's like they put was it Chapo Trap House on the
Yeah, that's the one.
quarantine list. And then like as far as Twitter goes, it's like I can't even keep up with what it's doing. Frankly, like there's more important things than this, but like frankly, they're changing to the desktop UI, or it's GUI. It's frankly disgusting, and I will not stand for this blatant censorship of good looking layouts. I've been greatly angered by Twitter's recent changes. I mean, also other dumb stuff that it does. How
I actually don't mind the new layout. The only thing that bothers me is that you can't easily open things in new tabs, and they got rid of the copy link to tweet button in the tweet menu.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying.
Oh no!
It's just fucking.
Oh, it's still on mobile.
Yeah, you can
It
find
is
it.
on mobile, yeah. I think maybe they haven't added it yet.
It could
desktop.
be. I mean, I've been talking about this a lot with like local comrades, though. So we need to be building like robust sneaker nets, like physical channels of communication and burner phones rather than encryption, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of being more nimble by the state. You could move back to like less advanced technologies as they sort of backdoor more elaborately to all the newer stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it much more easily evades surveillance and stuff.
This is what I was saying
Plus,
about resurrecting junk tech. But go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I read a study a while back that the internet is actually so energy intensive. You can take like paper media and drive up to it was something like 200 miles. It was either 80 or 200. I can't remember. It's quite a big difference, but it's still like a lot, and that's more efficient than sending something via the internet.
What?
Yeah, I can believe that.
That's fucked up.
Yep.
That's fucked.
It's one of the reasons I'm trying to get everybody up to fucking Seattle, to be honest. It's just I want to just not to have to stop chilling with people just because I
send a pigeon.
Yeah, there we go, homing pigeons.
Well, I do.
As the resident old, I can't imagine a world without the internet. And
I literally can't because I grew up with it.
I mean, I don't think any of us are so young that we don't remember a time before the internet. I don't think I had a personal computer in the house until I was probably about 12 or 13. It's early days, but I definitely remember being a teenager and being like, cell phones are gonna be a fad.
My dad is a big tech nerd, so actually we had a computer in the house since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was using it. I was on the internet by the time I was 7 or 8. My babysitter showed me how to use InfoSeek.
Yeah. I had a Commodore 64.
Nice.
It's pretty rad. But Dad would get three newspapers a day and a bunch of magazines. And that's basically what you had with radio or whatever. And I guess it's better now because you can see more of the world, but it's worse because you see everyone's perspective of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cue in on the wrong perspective, an asshole you will become.
I mean, business basically destroyed the web because before it was just anyone could put up a website very easily, and that's what the internet was just people putting up their own websites. And then the .com bubble happened, and that or .com boom, I guess, that brought a lot of businesses on, but it was still just phone book entries basically. And then now business has destroyed the web, where instead of having the web, we just have apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I haven't looked that much into it, but Mammoth or whatever has that thing where it's not so much a social media website as a social media protocol.
Mastodon, yeah.
Yeah,
Mastodon,
I think actually the protocol
did
not use Mastodon. Yeah.
We'll make our own called Mammoth.
Yeah, there we go. A socialist one.
I just sort of miss, I guess, pre-social media internet.
Yep.
Because I've had basically some form of computer since I was like a baby, and I wasn't allowed to go outside to play with the neighbor kids, because my family was super paranoid like that.
Mood.
So I feel like I've grown up with like the internet as like a twin, and I've sort of seen it like prior to like MySpace. There were GeoCities and Angel Fire sites.
Yep.
And it was interesting to see MySpace. It was interesting to see sort of early Facebook as they started rolling it out to the high school kids instead of just college kids.
Even MySpace was closer to the old web because you could, like, your page was extremely customizable.
Yeah, but
which
HTML.
ended up being terrible because people would put like animated backgrounds and shit like that, and like slow your computer to a halt. But it's still kind of cool.
I had music, and you'd go on something, and it's just like some dumb song. Yep. Oh my god,
a MIDI song.
Yeah. I had a friend that made like a social media like website out of Boston in like '98 or around that point in time. Before like Friendster and I think it was before Friendster, but yeah, it was like a lot more free, and now you could probably do that, but I think he probably had like a couple thousand people on there. If it didn't if it didn't kick off of like Twitter or like Facebook now, no one would go to it. It's just those are like the beast. Although, I guess the fascists do prove that when you do get kicked off of that, you just go to something else like Mastodon, or you go into a knitting website, or Gab, right? But there was some knitting website that they went on that they used to chat on also, and
really?
like yeah, can't remember the name. Oh,
that's fucked.
Weird.
Leave those women alone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and they went and it was wild, but they didn't have they kept losing their space, so they just started going and like, hey, this has like a chat program, and wow.
Some right-wing guy that was in my mentions yesterday, he had the weirdest bio. It was like Christianity, guns, family, blah blah blah, and then like the last thing was quilting. Like, what?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that was probably a cue on that, man. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe not.
Oh, he means QAnon?
No, I didn't really mean that kind of cue, but like the other kind, like whatever.
Where we knit one, we knit all.
Right. Yeah. I bet it was some sort of like, hey, I'm on that knitting site also. Type.
Oh, yeah.
Wink,
or it's
wink.
Q like the JQ.
Right. Wink, wink. Okay, sign, fucker.
It's sort of weird to see like all the like the wild west places of the internet, because I've sort of like grown up like sort of like seeing around like those weird rambunctious parts of the internet, because to sort of out myself again as a gamer, I was like on GameFAQs, and at one point actually was on like the message boards when I was like 13, 12, and like there were wild and out communities on GameFAQs, and you would see message boards which people couldn't even join anymore, because like there was like one message board which got up to like the weirdest things. They would brigade websites. I remember one of the things they did was like they freaking they found an online memorial to someone, and they just like basically electronically vandalized it. And then like the next thing after that is like, you start seeing mentions of 4chan pop up, and you're like, oh, what's 4chan? And it's like it's weird how there's this rolling ball of shittiness that's somewhere on the internet, and you can sort of like eke out the edges, but I don't know. It's weird.
It sounds like GameFAQs was the original Reddit.
Ooh, maybe. Because, I mean, like, message boards are almost like, they feel really similar to, like, the whole Reddit thing, except Reddit adds, I guess,
Upvoting and downvoting.
yeah,
That's
this
basically the only
fake
difference.
currency to all their interactions, whereas GameFAQs was like, I was here first, let's have a long-form conversation. These conversations are in record, and it doesn't matter how popular you are or how many people will upvote your dumb thing.
You had to be good at posting.
Yeah, it was the original battlegrounds for posting.
Yeah. I think Something Awful is also a lot like Twitter.
Yeah.
We had
Same
like
kind
a
of culture
local
and everything.
message board you had to like call into off the like dial-up internet. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I am. But kind of cool. And then you like shit talk actual people that lived in your neighborhood because it was like super regional county or yeah. It was, God, I'm old.
So just to reveal what a dork I was when I was like 11, 12, the first like social internet thing I got into, like not just like browsing around at like websites and stuff, was an Invader Zim forum called Room with a Moose.
That actually sounds super cool. And
It was pretty cool. I was basically just like talking to a bunch of goth kids, you know.
I would have
At
never
one point-
pegged. Huh?
Go ahead.
No, I would say I would never pegged Invader Zim as goth.
Oh yeah, it was definitely because it was all like I mean it was like creepy and Jonan Vasquez was like he also did Johnny the Homicidal
Maniac. Yeah.
Yeah, which was like super like goth kid thing.
Yeah, it's like a goth institution practically. Like I mean, he's my first girlfriend was super into him.
Yeah, if you're like a basic bitch, then you like Nightmare Before Christmas. But if you're a real head, you like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
That's true.
That and like H.R. Geiger, yeah.
Yeah.
We went from that like message board to AOL chats.
Oh yeah, I was doing AOL chats at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was different. It was kind of more like the phone, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Phone 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was basically texting before even texting was could be a thing, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure, because you had like the direct message or whatever they called it, so you could just message the person and talk to them. Oh man, I can't remember the other one. IRCQ, maybe.
ICQ.
ICQ is like another chat that they had.
Yeah, I never got into that one.
Yeah, I had. I would talk to like different bands and stuff, like bands I would meet. So I was like really in the hardcore scene and stuff, and that's kind of like how you would talk to the guys that were like out of country and everything, which is really weird.
There was also IRC, which was the original like chat room.
IRC.
The original,
it was IRC that we were all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that still exists. ICQ is long defunct. That was more like an IM thing, but IRC lives on I2P, which is like this. It's like Tor times 1,000, basically. It's called the Invisible Internet Project, and it's kind of interesting the way it works. It's basically like everyone has like everyone passes around messages through the system, and each message has like an identifier on it. It's just like an encrypted ID, and so basically how it works is you pass the message until you see one that's for you, and then you just don't pass it anymore. And so that's how it keeps anonymity. Is like no one knows who the message is going to except for the person that it's intended for. And there's an IRC server on there. It's cool.
That's pretty cool.
I was really into it in like 2010, 2011 when the Arab Spring was happening.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I bet what's the security like on that? Like,
oh, it's crazy. It's got really heavy encryption. It's actually very, very slow because of all the encryption and anonymity stuff.
Right.
But it's pretty impossible to track anyone through there.
Yeah, if you ever really want to get paranoid and fuck up your broadband, just fire up the VPN and go on a Tor browser and see what happens.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing. I got fiber, and like if I get all that going, it's like everything just creeps. But
and supposedly the original I2P protocol, which is called the I2P tunnel, was written by. It's rumored to have been written by Julian Assange because it was by someone named J Random, and that was supposedly a pseudonym that he used in his early days.
Ooh, weird.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's where I learned about Bitcoin, like right when it came out, and I was mining like before almost anyone knew about it. So I'm pretty sure that there's a wallet out there that I just lost. I could have had like an extra like $30,000 or whatever at one point if I had sold during the peak.
Man,
I wonder what Bitcoin prices are now. Wow, it's still 11,877.
11. Wow.
It's like the peak was around 18. Yeah, 15, 18, something like that. Damn.
Somebody told me about it on a boat, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm taking this whole paycheck and dropping it." That guy. I could
Is he a
have done
Bitcoin
that.
millionaire now?
Oh, he's a douchebag, but he's probably an NCAP, but like not really loud about it. Just like same philosophy. He just doesn't have a name for it. 100% sure.
I believe I should keep all my money and also be allowed to shoot people who want to take my money.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that. Yeah, it's like every.
I like money and I hate the government, which are not contradictory positions at all.
When you dig real deep down to it, aren't we all just in our hearts a little bit?
Yeah. I want to be able to sell myself, sell all my labor in a futures contract, and just be a slave for the rest of my life, because that's real freedom.
I mean, you have to admit, though, that there is some sort of a weird appeal to, like, wanting to be domesticated in a sense and just have everything be easy. Like, this is why people give into fascism, is because it's simpler and they don't have to think about it.
That's true. I do hate deciding what to eat for dinner.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally like the thought process, right? Is like, you don't want to look at all the bad parts of society or whatever that you think you don't want to deal with, and so you just want it to go away. Like, liberals do the same thing.
Yeah.
Just in a very different way.
So if any fascists are listening, if you promise to decide what I eat for dinner every day for the rest of my life, I'll totally work for you. Just kidding. I would never do that.
I just kind of want to move to a society where we just all wear jumpsuits. They can be different colors. You can put patches on them if you want, but like a jumpsuit coveralls is like the most comfortable thing you can wear.
I'm still
And
waiting.
it's easy. It's the pants and the shirt. It's all put together. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about your shirt.
Make it tracksuits, because tracksuits are cool.
Yeah, but it's not all. I want all one piece. I want just the one piece. I don't want like a top.
It's so
and a
awkward
bottom.
to poop.
Well, there is a trick to that. And
butt flaps. Okay.
Yeah, you just get the butt flap, and that's easy. It's easy. You just got the two buttons, and boom, you're done. Okay, maybe I have to rethink this. I forgot about the bathroom things. It could be really horrible.
I've worn some jumpsuits in my day. Like, I don't find it that difficult, really. And a lot of them come with belts and stuff. Like, you just unzip the top bit and pull it down.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wear like coveralls at work all the time, and then a fun aspect of living in like rural Louisiana is all the old guys. They that's like their fashion. They wear these. This is kind of where I'm getting it from. They'll wear that with like cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and it's like a one piece with like a little belt on it or whatever. And that's like a look. It blows my mind. You can go into all the finest haberdasheries. That's where shop, and they'll have like those one piece like jumpsuits hanging up in there. And so Zydeco music is like really popular down here. So popular that like the punk rock kids, like instead of like being like skinheads that turn into rockabilly kids, or like punks that turn into rockabillys, they turn into like Zydeco like players or whatever. And like they all started fucking wearing those things. I'm just like, God, you guys are like 30, you're not 60 yet. What are you doing? You're not supposed to move into that wardrobe down here until you're like a whole lot old. But I don't know. Dr. Venture would wear them on the speed suit. I think it's a good look.
Oh, true, yeah.
it's a good look. It's functional, but whatever. But I wouldn't want to dictate to people like what they need to wear if they didn't want to wear it. The easily put on, no choices made. I don't like having to look at my clothes and figuring out like top, bottom, does this match, does this look good? I agree. So if there's any fascists out there that want to dress me, just go ahead and tell me so I can punch you in the face. Because I don't think I'd be down for that.
So I was tweeting at David Graeber this morning, and he was talking about universal basic income, and I was just saying that like if you have like universal basic services instead, then it like reduces class divisions because rich people basically have to use the same shit as poor people, as opposed to UBI where you're just buying stuff from businesses and rich people can still have like the fancy shit or whatever.
Yeah, means of production and everything.
Yeah. And it got me thinking like what are all the things that the state could take over that we haven't already thought of? And one of the first things that came to mind was clothing, because I was saying on like the last episode we recorded, like clothing is one of the primary like class signifiers. Like rich people will notice your clothes before anything else. And it's also one of those things where like the government could easily just produce a bunch of clothes and then put them in a place where you just pick out whatever you want to wear and take it home with you, like a clothing library,
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be good to have something like that as a backup potentially, but clothing is a lot more than just like basic personal covering. It's also like an expression of yourself, and so we should definitely have that available to people. But I think that would just go along with like the general method by which we're feeding and housing people. You just also get guaranteed clothes. Anybody who's naked, then we'll just make you clothes or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I don't know if that really lends itself to the library structure.
We can have the community screen printing place where if you're into personal expression, you can get a government-produced blank shirt and then screen print whatever you want on it. And the equipment's there, and you can just, make anything you want. But no fucking brand names. Fuck all that shit. That stuff sucks.
So I thought you were going another way with that, Ryan, when you said the state, and I was thinking of suppression and how, like schools, everyone has to wear uniforms and everything now. It's gonna be like everyone has to wear a uniform.
I kind of support school uniforms, honestly.
I think
canceled.
I mean, like kids get made fun of for their clothes at school all the time, and like it's usually because they're poor and they're wearing like Bobo shoes or whatever.
Right.
That's fucked up. Like, make all the kids wear the same shit.
It still happens.
They can express themselves when they're not in school.
Yeah, it still happens with that shit though, because of one, the shoes, the big one, but then like you can have like some Ralph Lauren pants or like Tommy Hilfiger your pants when the other guy's got like Dickies on or something. So it's still there, but I don't think it's like quite as obvious. Like if everyone has to wear blue shirts all the time.
Well, I'm assuming that the school would issue the uniforms. It wouldn't be like this is the dress. It's not like a dress code. It's like literally a uniform.
Because it depends. At private schools, their uniforms. I mean, to out myself again, I went to private school, like 1st through 5th grade, but those uniforms
Canceled.
are like, now you have to all buy buy the stuff. It's not issued to you, not even through the ridiculous tuition that was probably paid for me to go there. So I mean, it was passed off as another cost onto the parents. I mean, granted, I guess like even then, like your uniform is like a class signifier because like now you have to afford to be able to pay tuition. Now you have to be able to afford to buy the uniforms.
Yeah.
So
if you're walking around in public in that school uniform, you're designating yourself away from other people too, because you get the money to buy the uniform, go to that school. But the public schools, at least down here, they all have uniforms. And it's like khakis and a polo or whatever. And I think it's like a designated collar shirt, maybe. Like it's blue or whatever.
Are they issued uniforms or is it like a dress code?
Okay, it's a dress code. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But to me, that just seems like it's a fucking uniform. Because when I went to school...
Yeah, I mean, if it's like the dress code is really strict, then I guess it's pretty close to a uniform. But I'm talking about the ideal situation in my mind where you're just issued clothes so that kids don't get bullied for being poor.
No, I think that's the way around it, really. And that way it makes everybody the same or equal,
Yeah.
And you're not walking around with like Jordan. Everyone gets Converse.
Yeah.
or whatever. Everyone gets like a knockoff pair of Chuck Taylors, which is like good shoes. That's really all you need.
Chuck Taylors or Doc Martens.
Yeah. And just some pants. Or really, they should be wearing jumpsuits because it is the ultimate fashion of the future. But
silver jumpsuits.
Yeah. So that's even fancy. Yeah. Now you might go to space in one of those astronauts jumpsuit, but that they don't get us fed. So I don't. That's where I went when you were bringing that up. I was thinking about it the other way, but the other way is much better because like clothing is a big deal. Definitely involved in like a lot of activities where we like do like clothing drives for people. And then, like, we'll hand out, like, clothes to homeless people and, like, do, like, a jacket drive in the wintertime, I was wondering where those jackets go in the summer. They just disappear. They make good pillows. I don't know. But, yeah.
I'm sure that's responsible for a lot of the jacket drives is homeless people just can't keep the clothes that,
right.
Yeah,
because you don't have any place to put it. And Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, they had a uniform system that was similar to that. And I think they kind of like fashioned them away a little bit. But like you would wear your shirt, and then when the shirt was bad, you took it back, and they gave you another one. This shirt has holes in it. I need it.
Yeah, that kicks ass.
Mm-hmm. It's like a clothing library. Oh, that's seriously wrong, boys, where I got that library. Library socialism.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
So, last thing before we wrap it up. John actually asked about this earlier, and we kind of glossed over it, but Kratom. So you were wondering what Kratom is, John?
yeah, what that?
So basically, it's a tree leaf from Indonesia. And it's what's called a biased opiate agonist. And that basically means that it activates your opiate receptors, but not in the same way as like a regular opiate. It's like an opiate analog. So it has similar effects. They're not as potent, but they're also far less dangerous. So far, there's no documented evidence of anyone getting respiratory depression from Kratom, which is the big risk of regular opiates, where if you take too much of an opiate or you mix it with something else that's a depressant, it will depress your body so much that you literally like can't breathe, and so you just like suffocate to death. And it's also like not really addictive at all. I mean, there's like it's probably like similar to weed. Like there's like a psychological component to it where it's like
you do it long enough, you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I think with heavy use, there is a little bit of an addiction to it, Ryan. But
like I think there's dependency, but I don't know if that's the same as addiction. You know what I
Right,
mean?
like-
Like, if you stop, then you'll have like negative effects, but it's not like I need to keep doing this. It's just
Right.
like, oh, if I didn't keep doing this, it would suck because
Yeah.
of the withdrawals.
In a couple of days, you're okay. You just gotta
Yeah.
put up with like a couple of bad days, and then you're all right. And that's really
Yeah,
if
really
you're-
bad shits.
Yeah, that's just if you're using, like you're a really heavy user, I believe.
Yeah.
Which that happens sometimes for like because people use it for healthcare and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and so a lot of people that are addicted to opiates have been using it to get off of opiates, and they'll say that like that's all they need. They don't need to do heroin or what's another opiate?
Pharmaceuticals, OxyContin, all that kind of
Oxycontin,
stuff.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, they don't need to do that anymore. They could just do kratom. And also a lot of alcoholics have gotten off of booze with it too.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty good stuff. And it also one weird thing about it is it has like a bimodal effect, which means like at low doses it'll act as a stimulant, but at higher doses it'll act as a like depressant / painkiller / opiate. So it has a different effect depending on
How much you take.
how much you take, yeah. And so like the traditional way of taking it was actually to use it as a stimulant, and basically like guys in rural Indonesia would just like chew on the leaves, and it would pep them up while they're doing farm work. But the way that most of us are taking it is either as like just a drug or as like a painkiller. So I take it as a painkiller because I have a bad back, and it really gets rid of my back pain and everything.
Wow.
I
Yeah, it
take
works
it
really well.
as a stimulant and just do like little doses in it. But I'm like what's the energy gets me going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like a lot more productive. Need to do the chores, a little bit of kratom, boom, 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 and I'm on it. Yeah, but yeah, the dosage is weird, and it's different for depending on what leaf it is, like where it's from in the world, and your metabolism. The dose kind of like swings, and it's really good to like measure it out and be like on top of it, because if you have too much, it will just like put you, and it's like couch glue, and you just fall asleep. Just yeah, you'll just like pass out. Which I mean, that's fun too, but whatever.
Yeah, I've only taken it once as like a stimulant, but I remember it being less like anxiety inducing than caffeine in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, yeah. I get mad anxiety from caffeine.
It's super mellow, and it's not really you're not like really high off of it. I don't think, compared to like doing like a harder.
It's like taking a
drug.
baby hit of weed.
Yeah, it's like taking a baby hit of weed, and you're like, ooh, that's fun, and like
Yeah.
you go about your day, and it's not like I wouldn't ever like shouldn't operate any heavy machinery with it or anything, but I
Yeah.
think you could take a dose of it and go about your regular day, and it's not really like that big of a deal.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen with it is if you take too much, or if you mix it with DXM, like DXM cough syrup, it'll make you really nauseous.
Ooh.
Like especially with DXM, like supposedly it'll make you nauseous for like a whole week. But
Well, shit,
if you do too much, it'll just like your tummy will hurt for a few hours. You know.
Yeah.
And some people get a little also, but it's also it's like an opiate too, so it might depend on like how sensitive your body is to opiates, because those will make you like nauseated really bad. So like if you're like addicted to opiates and you're using it to quash that addiction, it might nauseate you, but that's like body react to the effect. And that's like how your body really react to it, maybe. You know what I mean?
Damn. So basically, just another fun drug that I won't be able to take while I'm getting drug tested.
No,
You can.
they
Yeah,
can't-
it won't show up on a drug test.
Say what?
Yeah. That's
and it's
why I
also the
like it.
cheapest drug there is.
Yeah, that's why I like it, because I get drug tested. That's
You can
like,
get a kilo for like $80.
and that would last you. I don't even know if like by the time you get to the bottom of it.
Does this grow off of trees or something? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a leaf. It's a tree leaf.
What? Damn.
Now,
And one of my favorite things about it is the top grade is called Mang Da, which means pimp grade.
no.
Great name.
Here's the fun part, though, is a bunch of states are trying to make it illegal.
No, I can believe that. Like, holy shit! I can't believe
it's good,
I heard of
so
this
it's gotta be
before it
illegal.
became illegal. It sort of
Yeah.
makes me want to just go around planting this everywhere.
It's totally a cure for like alcohol and heroin abuse, opiate addiction. I've tons of stories, did a lot of research on it.
Yeah, it's like the person had kratom in their system and also fentanyl and meth, and so he obviously died from the kratom. So we need to ban it immediately.
Right.
Yeah, Lord help us if there's another naturally available thing that
Yeah,
is not immediately bad for you and could be freely available.
yeah. And I was gonna say, John, I don't know if anyone's tried to plant it here. I mean, Indonesia's pretty tropical, and that's where sugarcane came from, and that mostly is grown in like the Caribbean and stuff. So they might be able to grow kratom in the Caribbean, but I don't know if they could grow it here. At least not until like 2040 or something.
Also, it is illegal in some states, so
Yeah, that's true.
if you're interested in it, like check the laws before you buy anything over the internet and get it, because you could get in trouble.
Yep.
And that's just a quick.
But in
Google
other
search.
states, you can get it at the gas station. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can.
Yeah, and like you can get it at head shops too. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's there. I mean, I've got it from some head shops before, and there is a difference. I could tell quality difference. From like reputable vendors, I'd get it offline.
Yeah.
Just like the effects, you can feel the effects a little bit, like a little bit stronger,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like it's just better. And like it was just like more. I don't want to think about it. They probably put like some sort of filler in there with it or something.
Yeah.
Dirt.
Dirt. Basically, I would get it like in a powder and like make a tea out of it. But you can get it in the leaf form. Also, weren't you telling me about that, Ryan? You can get it.
Yeah, it's harder. It's much harder to find it in leaf form because you can't transport as much volume or as much weight in the same volume as the powder form. But yeah, I'm thinking of starting a small business making kratom tea, and I was thinking today of finding a source for leaf instead of powder because it would just be easier to filter the solutes or whatever the fuck the word is. Because with the powder, I have to like let it settle for like a day or two, and then rack it off of that.
Right. Yeah. You get the stuff in the what I just take I have a kettle, and I just pour like a half a cup of tea with that, and I put my scoops of the good stuff in there, and just shoot it hot, and it's gross and it's gritty and all around like nasty experience, but in about 10 minutes, all was worth it.
Yeah, I make like a full-on decoction where I mix it with citric acid, which it needs acid to release the mitragynine, the chemical that is like psychoactive, and so I mix it with some citric acid, which is very cheap and easily available online, and then I put the kratom in there with water, freeze it overnight, and then put it in a big stock pot. So I do like 1 quart container of the frozen stuff, 60 grams of kratom, freeze it overnight, put it in a stock pot with an additional 5 quarts of water, and then I throw some cinnamon sticks, some star anise, and some ginger slices in there, and bring it to a low boil for about 2 or 3 hours, and then I just let it settle overnight and pour it into a gallon jug, and yeah, it's delicious and
Yeah, that actually does
really
sound good.
really potent.
Wow, yeah, I need to come over. That sounds nice.
And
Yeah,
so I'm thinking of bottling that and selling it.
yeah, that's a pretty good idea. That
Yeah.
I'll use it for like a painkiller as well to like self
Yep.
medicate. Like if I'm like sore, whatever, it works. It works that way also. But I just do the same technique. I just kind of up the dosage a little bit
Yeah.
for the painkiller. Just kind of play with the dosage a little bit, and it's totally like a really earthy taste the way I do it. You can get it in pill form, also.
Yeah, one of my friends does that, and she'll poke holes in it so that it acts faster.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that way you don't have to deal with the taste. But with that, like you want to make sure you get it like from a good vendor.
she's one of the people that will definitely buy the tea off at me, though.
Yeah. I mean, you could ship that tea to me. I wouldn't mind. But yeah. I think if you drink it in a liquid form, it reacts to your body faster. Your body
Oh
absorbs
yeah,
it
for
faster.
sure. Yeah, it's like within 10 minutes.
For with the pills, I think with
Yeah, so the reason I brought kratom up in the first place is like it's not technically federally illegal, but like Soy Boy said, it's illegal in some states. It's primarily sold as a botanical and not labeled for human consumption. So like it's like people are buying it for like, I don't know, like gardening or something like that. But it's still there's still some crackdown on it because the DEA will seize shipping containers of it if they find out that someone's shipping kratom in, like through a random inspection or whatever. They'll seize the container. So there's like a bit of risk if you're a kratom importer. And then another risk is banks and credit card processors will like just block or freeze. They'll block the transaction or freeze your account if they find out you're buying or I guess selling kratom. So it's just like the private arm of the state acting on it.
It might be where that bank's based out of if they do that. Like if the sale of kratom's illegal where their headquarters is. I don't know. I really haven't heard much about that, but that sucks. Like, I don't know why the bank, because it's not federally mandated, like scheduled drug or anything like that. Why banks would start they would freeze your assets when you're going to buy that. But I guess
Big pharma coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but that kind of makes sense. But I haven't heard about that, and that's super depressing. Yay! My state just started bringing something up. My wife sent me a text about it. I was like, so I get like achy pains and stuff. It helps a lot better than like drinking, which is like one of the worst things. Okay, period. Like I get a sort where I get like a little bit of this, like I'm fine, and I'm not like smoking pot, risking my job. Get a little bit of dank. They make fake pee for this. So
Does the fake pee work still?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
You just got to get it from like a good, source.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it still works. And then luckily I'm gifted with like a really high metabolism. Also, so if I need to like purge or whatever, it can happen kind of quick. Plus, it's like 100 degrees outside now, all the time. So I sweat a lot, sweat it out. But yeah, that's really unfortunate. Banks are gonna really fuck with online. Most people get it like through vendors. Again, I'm not really sure. Assuming that's probably like what you do, Ryan. In a larger city, there store you can get it from, but I've only seen it in like head shop, gas stations, and shit like.
Yeah. Supposedly there's a kratom store around me, I haven't been to it though.
Yeah, they'll sell it in liquid form. I've seen in like, gas stations, and it's like this little weird. Yeah, you have no idea what the hell is that. Nothing.
Well, I think we can wrap it up here. So, thanks everyone for coming on and talking. Sloan, John, Soy Boy, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Does anyone have anything to plug?
Nah.
Just myself. I'm really cool, right? Check me out.
Okay.
Everybody,
Soy Boy?
I got nothing really.
Okay.
You know, it's fun being with the neighbors. Neighbor block party. Woo!
Yep. So, if you enjoyed that episode, this episode,